For a country not even the size of California, Vietnam has pretty much everything you could ask for. Boasting 8 UNESCO heritage sites, diverse culinary delights, an intricate network of rivers and canals, lush paddy fields, breathtaking natural scenery, and tropical beaches, Vietnam stands out as one of the most captivating and popular countries in Southeast Asia. So, join us as we explore 16 infamous and interesting facts about the fascinating country that's Vietnam. Let's go! Number 1. Motorbikes are everywhere. Motorbikes are quite literally everywhere in Vietnam, from the bustling cities to the deep hidden regions of the Vietnamese countryside. Vietnam lives up to its nickname, the Kingdom of Motorbikes. With a population of nearly 100 million, the country boasts about 60 million motorbikes, overshadowing the mere 2 million cars, primarily due to cost considerations and practicality. Owning a car is incredibly expensive because the tax is around 100 to 200%, so it's a luxury reserved for the very wealthy. The tax for motorbikes is far cheaper, making it a more affordable and convenient means of transportation, especially in the narrow streets and alleys. Vietnamese people use their motorbikes for all sorts of things. They carry their families, various produce, and all kinds of goods. Number 2. Vietnam has over 3,000 kilometers of coastline. Vietnam, a strip of land shaped like the letter S, is nestled in Southeast Asia. Sharing borders with China to the north, Laos to the northwest, and Cambodia to the southwest, it boasts 3,260 kilometers of coastline, about 3,000 islands of all sizes, and features 125 beautiful beaches. Vietnam is also among the 12 countries with the most pristine bays, globally, namely Ha Long Bay and Nha Trang Bay, explaining why the number of sea tourists in Vietnam accounts for nearly 70% of total foreign tourists to the country. Number 3. Vietnam is big on coffee. Vietnam produces and drinks a huge amount of coffee. After Brazil, Vietnam holds the position of being the world's second largest coffee producer. The initial introduction of coffee to Vietnam dates back to the mid-19th century, when a French priest brought the first coffee plants. Presently, Vietnamese Robusta is highly regarded globally and is primarily exported to the EU. Vietnamese coffee is served sweet and strong, on ice, often with sweetened condensed milk. Recently, traditional egg coffee has been making a big comeback in cafes. Number 4. Southern Vietnam is famous for floating markets. Diving into Vietnamese culture and trade, the floating markets in South Vietnam pop up with 2 big names, Cai Rang Floating Market and Cai Bay Floating Market. These markets highlight the country's unique river-based trade culture. Situated on the Mekong River, Vietnam's floating markets are a hub of activity, with boats selling a vibrant mix of fresh produce, fruits, and local goods. Number 5. Hanoi, city of lakes, narrow houses, and train street. Hanoi, the vibrant capital of Vietnam, means city of lakes. Built on the banks of the Red River, dozens of rivers still flow around the city and form lakes. With a population of 5.2 million, some houses are tall but very narrow because property of a taxation law that was introduced in the 19th century by the French. While the tax law no longer applies, the tradition is still going due to limited space. Speaking of narrow, the century-old railway in Hanoi's Old Quarter, known as Train Street, has become a major tourist attraction. Despite ongoing safety concerns and authorities' attempts to close it down for nearly a year, tourists continue to flock to this precarious spot where trains pass dangerously close to open-air cafes. Number 6. Vietnam has the world's largest cave. Hang Son Doong Cave is the biggest cave worldwide at over 200 meters high, 175 meters wide, and 9.4 kilometers long. Also known as the Mountain River Cave, it was first discovered in 1990 and located in Vietnam's Phang Ngai Khe Bang National Park. It also has a 60-meter high calcite wall inside, renowned as the Great Wall of Vietnam. Over the years, sunlight has been able to travel inside the cave and allowed trees and other forms of vegetation to grow. New findings in 2019 suggest Hang Son Doong may be even larger than believed, as its river links to the nearby Hang Thung Cave. Number 7. Viet Nam, or Vietnam. Vietnam originates from 2 words, Viet and Nam, with ancient Chinese using Viet to describe people from beyond its borders and Nam signifying south. In contrast, ancient Vietnamese employed Viet to denote fairies and dragons, symbolizing the origin of the Vietnamese people. Despite being used for centuries, the official adoption of the name occurred in 1804 during the Nguyen dynasty. Today, the two-word variant of Vietnam is used by Vietnamese nationals, neighbouring countries, and even the UN. It's only in Western writing that we use the single word Vietnam. Number 8. Pho Soup. A popular Vietnamese street food is considered the national dish. It's probably one of the most mispronounced of all Vietnamese dishes. The true pronunciation of pho is pho or pho. While pho is well known and permeated mainstream food culture in the West, there is so much more to Vietnamese food. From goi kun, which are colourful and fresh summer rolls, to ban ran, a savoury donut, Vietnamese food is based on flavour and diversity. Number 9. Vietnam has over 50 ethnic groups. Vietnam is a multi-nationality country with 54 ethnic groups. The Viet Kin people account for 87% of the country's population and mainly inhabit the Red River Delta, the Central Coastal Delta, the Mekong Delta, and major cities. They speak Vietnamese, though dialect can change dramatically based on the region. Number 10. France and China have occupied Vietnam. In Vietnam's history, it's been occupied by the Chinese starting in 111 BC and by the French 1858. This history means that today, you can see both Chinese and French influences around Vietnam evident in its architecture, cuisine, and even language, which underwent Romanization by the French. Vietnam has a complex relationship with its neighbour China, the roots of which are multifaceted, extending beyond China's historic occupation of Vietnam to include contemporary issues like territorial disputes in South China Sea and China's role in the US-Vietnam War. Number 11. Vietnam has 8 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Exploring the wonders of Vietnamese nature and culture reveals the astonishing richness ingrained in this country. 8 remarkable UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Vietnam stand as proof of its profound historical and natural significance. These sites include Ha Long Bay, Phong Nha Ke Bang National Park, Hoi An Ancient Town, My Sơn Sanctuary, Hue Imperial City, Hang Lo Imperial Citadel, Ho Dynasty Citadel, Trang An Landscape Complex. Number 12. Nguyen is the most common surname in Vietnam. Nguyen is Vietnam's most widespread surname, carried by about 40% of the population. Its origins trace back to the Nguyen dynasty, the last imperial rule in Vietnam from 1802 to 1945, where citizens adopted it as a symbol of loyalty. Despite the dynasty's end, Nguyen remains a significant cultural marker, reflecting historical ties to Vietnam's imperial era. Number 13. Ho Chi Minh's embalmed body on display. Vietnam's first president and prime minister, Ho Chi Minh, or fondly referred to as Uncle Ho, died in 1969. In enduring tribute to his legacy, his body was embalmed and is still on display today in a mausoleum in the capital, Hanoi. He's showcased in a glass coffin, allowing visitors to pay their respects and reflect on his significant role in Vietnamese history. Number 14. Poetical Leaf Hat. The traditional conical hat, known as the poetical leaf or non la in Vietnam, is crafted from palm leaves or bamboo, symbolizing a connection to nature and serving as a distinctive symbol of Vietnamese identity. Worn by farmers and integrated into traditional costumes, it embodies simplicity, versatility, and enduring cultural elegance, with roots in legends of maternal love and the history of rice cultivation. Number 15. Vietnamese New Year is known as Tet. Known as the largest festival in Vietnam and among the most widely celebrated in Southeast Asia, Tet draws over 90 million participants. Typically coinciding with Chinese New Year, Tet may occasionally vary due to a 1-hour time difference, leading to the new moon appearing on different days. The festivities of Tet involve traditional practices such as house cleaning, family reunions, and the offering of gifts to ancestors. Number 16. White is beautiful in Vietnam. The obsession with white skin in Asia has not stopped making headlines in recent years. Similar to the tan skin craze in the West, millions of Vietnamese women go to extreme measures to cover themselves to avoid the sun and achieve a lighter complexion associated with affluence. This preference, rooted in historical links between dark skin and manual labour, persists despite societal changes. But the primary motivation is the cultural perception that light skin equates to beauty. Not everyone agrees, with some expressing a preference for darker skin. Nevertheless, skin whitening products from Western giants like L'Oreal thrive in the beauty market, catering to those embracing Vietnam's cultural norm of valuing fair skin. Now, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe.